Hey, what's up, you guys? So let us all come to center. So, today I will be talking about psychic vampirism, the Daemon, and as well understanding the Black Flame. Know before I get into any more gnosis that I also cover this same kind of content more in depth over on the Patreon or down below. The Occult Cat TV Patreon. This is where for the 5th tier, I'm as well guiding either new initiates, people that have been walking the path, or those of you that wish to just have a network of other individuals and kind of like a community, but as well you get data sets from myself. That is the 5th tier of the Patreon, where I will be teaching the night side more in depth. So I will be giving you guys the full initiation from start to finish, everything that I did to finish, or rather wrap up my Clifothic journeys. So this is an intro into that, immersing you, preparatorily immersing you, just like magic. We use preparatory immersion to go into ritual. That's what makes ritual different than just walking around for some. For myself, at some point, I started to realize that magic is all around us, that we are magic itself. And when you know that magic is flowing through you, not just in the ritual chamber, not just when you do a spell, but it's always happening, that life is the ritual, that life is the spell. And I highly recommend that you guys go check out the video I have, Life as a Ritual. Because when you start to ritualize your life, this is when magic starts to happen all around you, because you're bringing yourself into the awareness that magic is always with you. And this allows you to embrace your endless evolution, something that Satan would talk about when you are encountering this devil, this Lord. So, getting into psychic vampirism, we must understand the archetype and as well what a vampire truly is. Yes, vampires exist. Now, to the depth and at what level someone is a vampire is going to be different for different people. It will be different based off your own psyche. Some people truly are sanguine vampires, that they have donors and they give energy through their blood. I've seen this. This is known in vampire communities, but more what I'll be talking about today is psychic vampires. Those of you that are walking the night side path, this is an evolution, this is an attunement in which you need to survive the dark matter in order to thrive within the underworld. Because as we're going through our underworld initiations, you could say our Clifothic initiations, as we're working with the infernal divine, what they will bring up and propose to you at some point is to become a vampire, or rather awaken this already dormant ability within yourself. For myself, I already happen to be born into a psychic vampiric bloodline. So in the same way, I was already naturally a medium, naturally a psychic, and as well as a child, I would always see. Now I realize what they are: demons, daemons, the ancient gods, the ancient divine. And getting into psychic vampirism later in my life, it helped me understand so many variables. I love death. I love dead roses. I love dead things. I think they're beautiful. I used to be very heavily nihilistic / depressed, but I realized that I actually gained power from my depression. I gained power from the nihilism. It's only when other people say, oh, that's bad, to think like that is bad. that you actually start to get programmed to think that sadness is bad. No, we go through depressing things. We go through sad things. We go through trauma. We've been through trauma. And that's actually what it's about, is healing that. And even understanding it's okay to be sad sometimes. That you can actually use that pain and you can transmute it. And the vampire is the master at transmutation. As well, they are the master psychics, master mediums, they're masters at business, awareness, because the vampire is always pulling in energy. The vampire is always using this aspect of reality to benefit them. Now, there's two different types of vampires when it comes to awareness. There's the unconscious vampires that have this ability, but they don't really know they do. They go to the club, they're able to look at someone in the eyes and hypnotize them. They don't realize this. They're able to get women easily because they pull their energy and use that in the exchange. Now, an unconscious vampire doesn't know that they're doing this, but now so it's in a distortion. Now, a conscious vampire knows that they are a vampire. They know that this as well gives them high levels of intelligence. It gives them high level of clarity within themselves. Yes, they have the ability to manipulate others, but they don't use this for, well, let's go into that of a source vampire. What is it to be a source vampire? There's these distortions that vampires are con artists, or vampires are players, or they just use their abilities to manipulate. Now the thing is, yes, there's going to be people you meet that are vampires. Most of the collective is actually very vampiric in nature. When they're depressed or being empaths, there's all this like negative or chaotic energy always being created and transferred between people, and they don't realize. So that's what becoming a conscious vampire as well as a source vampire is. It's where you're no longer in the distortion of the vampiric role, but you're more now choosing to transmute that into the you're sourcing yourself. So you're becoming the source, whereas most wouldn't view the source to be vampiric. Now, if you've met dragons, they have a pulling torsion field. Dragons are some of the closest beings to source, even teaching the ways of draconian magic. Hecate, Lucifer, Belial, Azazel, Beelzebub, Satan. These are all draconic initiators. And as we walk the path, the draconian path, taking on these adaptations, taking on these evolutions to evolve our soul and our psyche, this is what allows us to elevate and to reach source. Rather, we can even say to reach our own source, to go within and to embrace our pure authenticity at a faster rate. So this is also why vampires go through so much. Why we are vampires, the living dead, the undead. Even for myself, I've had a near-death experience. I went through a near-death. I have died. And not just a normal near-death. I smacked my jaw into the ground and I died. So what allowed me to survive was the fact that I was an unconscious vampire. I happened to elevate my awareness to a certain level that when I reached death's doors, when I was knocking on the doors of death myself, and I died, I was allowed to come back. I was able to come back. And honestly, for myself, I didn't want to come back. This was at a time in my life when life just started to become beautiful, but at the same time, I was still going through immense suffering. I remember and this was when I was 18. All throughout middle school into high school, I was depressed. I was suicidal every day. And I was asking for death. That's how much, when you say those words like, oh, delete yourself, or I want to delete myself, I don't want to be here anymore. When you say those words to yourself, it becomes a mantra. I had this mantra relaying every day to the point that I was led to a death experience. I was led to die. But that's also what I needed. Now, I didn't need this physical death. I needed what was known as an ego death or an ego dissolution. And it's through my death, that's how I entered into ego dissolution. And as well, heavy and mass amounts of it. This is where we're getting into the psychology of spiritual development, psychic development, the occult, vampirism, because you must understand the ego and what it is. When we're going into ritual, it is the ego that interferes with our psyche, that interferes with our connection. That when you try to go into a ritual, it's the ego that would stop you and say, oh, this isn't a ritual. This doesn't exist. This is just imaginations. What's the point to this? Why even do this? That's the ego mind, the limitation, the lack, the doubt, that which is suffering. Now, why would you do ritual? We do ritual to grow our soul, to enlighten ourself, to become our greatest version and to evolve and to enter into that next level of our awareness, that next stage that needs to be brought upon. And that is what our spiritual awakening is. And this is when we're going through many layers of death. The death of our ego, rather, dissolution of our ego. The death of ourself and who we thought we were, who we perceived ourselves to be. And as we die more and more to ourself, for myself, this is what brought me into what's known as the Daemon. The Daemon is that deific aspect of yourself that you achieve when going through apotheosis. So for myself, my own Daemon was what guided me to this, or rather my ego guided me to this experience, but going through that, the Daemon was what saved me. It's what was awakened within. That as I died, I merged with my Daemon, and it strengthened the connection that I had with my higher self. So my near death actually was needed. And from that, I was able to evolve at a faster rate, but I don't recommend that you try to do something of that nature. Rather, I'm sharing this experience because I know that those of you have as well been through this. And the same way that you can step into your Daemon without a near death is through meditation, is through going through the nothingness, choosing to die to your old self, choosing to die to your ego. This is what a vampire is a master of, dying to their old self. This is why when we look at the mythology, the vampire dies and then they wake up to not know what life is, to not know what reality is. And then they have this feeling that they need to do. They need to feed, they need to hunt, they need to embrace their primal and animalistic urges. Again, we're talking about psychic vampirism in this way. So that's more of a vampire wakes up from like in a movie, and in reality, it's very similar to that. That after I died, this is when I was put into the night side. This is when I started going through the cliff off. This is when I started to go through the abyss. When I started to wake up in the abyss and working with these dark matter beings, these dark matter energies. From that, in the beginning, I was first working with Horus and Thoth. So Thoth is what led me to the underworld. from going into the underworld and trying to understand it, this is then where I started to meet new initiators. I went from the light side, the Sephirothic tree, on the Kabbalistic tree, into the Qliphoth, that of the night side. This is when I started to work with demons. This is when I was initiated into becoming a demon, a vampire. And I started to use that inner technology. And for those of you that wish to understand this more in depth, I have guided meditations and as well different gnosis that is on the Patreon, as well as being released on the Patreon, and more in-depth videos on how to become a vampire yourself, how to work with the night side, the Qliphoth. That will be on the 5th tier for Coven of the Sacred Torch for those that wish to understand and are going through these initiations and that understand what I'm talking about in that nature. And then as well, the 4th tier is a fate and destiny source alignment and soul attunement ritual. And what this will do is align you to the energies that are most meant for you. So if you are in the night side and don't realize it, you will be attuned to be empowered by myself, my Daemon, and as well the spirits that I work with, where I already walk this path, and they will be aligning you, sourcing you, empowering you for really what's about to happen in the collective, in humanity. It gives you the energetic tools and awareness to survive these initiations, to go through these initiations, and better understand it through knowing thyself, through knowing yourself and who you are, knowing your destiny. For it's your destiny that leads you to your Daemon in order for you to fulfill your true will, to fulfill your magnum opus. It's what you leave behind. And this is also why in music, right, whether we look at metal music or dark rap, they're always talking about demons, devil time. The music industry in general is built off sex essence and death essence. That's what vampires thrive off of. Sex magic and death magic. Vampires are also master necromancers. We're able to speak with the dead. After my death experience, I actually don't see a difference between dead people and living people. Sometimes the dead are even more lively, than people that are still alive. And this is where we can work with the dead as well to gain information, to gain wisdom. Vampires are also masters at downloading. We download information. We download knowledge. Psychics, psychic known as Edward Casey, he talked about how he would sleep on different books, and that's actually what I do. I have a few different books that I've just been reading. I wrote my sigils on it, so downloading. But The Psychology of Money and A Crash Course in Day Trading. And as well, that's another thing. Psychics vampires are really good at money, at magnetizing money, to the point that even the businessman archetype, when you think of Wolf of Wall Street, when you think of a wolf, a shark, predator, there's every deity has brought this to my awareness, whether through channeling other people or even in tarot card readings, because my business is starting to really escalate and excel, and just dealing with different people and different amounts of money. There's many people that will try to shark you, that will try to get one over on you and get the best deal. And myself, not really coming from, yes, I'm a wolf. Yes, I'm an apex predator. I'm vampiric. I'm highly intelligent, and I know that I can excel very well in those fields. But I'm coming into it not as a vampire, but as a source vampire. So I'm bringing the source into it to get the best exchange, the best deal for both parties. And that's even where I'm going into business. And I've built a social media marketing agency, a copyright agency, starting to scale it. And I've just started to notice these things, even working with different business owners, how, yeah, just I really see that vampiric archetype. As well, businessmen have a black flame. The black flame, or psychic vampires, also have black flames. And a black flame, when we are going through the night side, this can be considered Lord Satan himself, or rather the energetic attunement and empowerment of the night side. Why those that are walking the night side path have a stronger will is because they're adapting and taking on this black flame. The black flame is what destroys and dissolves all illusions, bringing us into our truths, into our eternal truths. Just as the violet flame purifies the light illusion, energies we might have gained while we are around or while we're out, we can cleanse our energies. Especially as a vampire too. You can use the violet flame to cleanse your physis, your energy, and your aura. And now when you use the black flame though, this is more to strengthen yourself. And you'll start to notice in the beginning, before you start to elevate and ascend at a faster rate where you're just cycling these energies, you're gonna go through a process of ego dissolution and destruction that is gonna make you actually source yourself. It's going to make you go within to better understand and know who you are, and you'll start to discover more of yourself. You'll notice trauma being brought up, pain or suffering that you went through. In the beginning, you might start to notice your mind really is fighting you almost, because you're trying to attune to the power. Our society teaches us to be weak to the point that we don't know what true power is. We don't know what it is to step into power. And even when we're introduced with it, such as when we meet Satan, when we talk to Satan, when we talk to Lucifer or Azazel, I know in the beginning, for me, even though I was comfortable with these beings, there was still this like fear, this like be afraid, but it wasn't me fearing. I would be able to sit there and be fine and just channel. It was my ego. My ego was dissolving and my ego was afraid. But for myself, I had been detached from my ego to understand that I'm the awareness that is within rather than the ego itself. So I was able to sit there in channeling, in mediumship, and to write the message. And then I would leave. And I wouldn't feel that fear. And I even felt that what they were destroying, rather what they were bringing up within me, was the fear that I already felt for life. That yes, yeah, I was afraid. I had been through a lot of trauma, especially in my childhood, that it was still cycling. But as I went through the night side path, as I started to work with Lucifer, Lord Lucifer, King Belial, Lord Azazel, Lord Beelzebub, Lord Satan, Hecate, Queen Hecate, Goddess Lilith, all these beings helped me to heal myself in many different ways. And this is also where I learned to become a psychic vampire fully. I was a healer, a psychic surgeon that went into the hell realms in the underworld, where then I started to understand vampiric healing. I started to understand that I can pull disease out of people. Even when you push it to its highest extents, you can pull death out of someone. I did this on numerous accounts because you're solidifying, you see the death in them. You see the death essence. My vision has been rewired. It's been changed in order for me to see through the darkness by embracing what's known as the torch of Hecate. And that's as well what the Coven of the Sacred Torch is for. It's to give you this vision into the occult, to see the occult nature of reality, the occult nature of society, and as well the occult nature of yourself. So from embracing psychic vampirism, we are becoming more clairvoyant, more psychic, and we're raising more energy within ourselves and understanding a natural ability a lot of us possess. The psychic vampire is the most compassionate. Compassionate in the sense that they're the most empathic. Compassion or empathy, the ability to feel into another being, into something, feeling. And that's what a psychic vampire is. They're as an empath, but the way that you know you're more of a psychic vampire is that you pull the energy. You don't just feel it in an individual, but you can actually feel like you can pull it out of them. And that's also why we, as psychic vampires, need good psychic hygiene and to cleanse our energy regularly and cycle these energies with our source, knowing our source and as well who we are. Okay, so with that, you guys, I believe that's actually going to be the video. That's going to be a video on, we went a little bit, it was mostly about psychic vampirism, but we went into psychic vampirism, we went into the Daemon, and as well the Black Flame. I will have a more in-depth video on what all of these are on my Patreon, and as well, whenever I make content, I will always have more in-depth gnosis on these topics. So, on top of that, you guys, if you are looking to join the 5th tier, if you are looking to join Coven of the Sacred Torch, that will be the 5th tier. If you are looking for the Fate and Destiny, Soul Alignment, and Source Attunement Ritual, that will be the 4th tier. The 3rd tier gets the same gnosis as the 4th tier, and tiers 1 and 2 are a psychic development and magic training occult school that will teach you everything that you need for tiers 4 and as well 5 to better understand the occult nature of reality, magic, witchcraft, and as well shamanism. So these tiers are also brought forward by myself and the deities I work with, that of the Egyptian pantheon and that of the night side. I work with Horus and Thoth very heavily, goddess Isis, Ma'at, and as well, so the Egyptian pantheon, Hecate, that's a goddess I'm very close to and have an affinity for, as well as the Spider Queen. And other than that, anyone looking for a magic mentor, these are things that I do, magic mentorships, as well as Clifothic mentorships. And on top of that, there's also Fate and Destiny readings on top of consultations. If you are looking to get a hold of me or reach out to me, it would be at my email. That's best place to reach me, occultcattv@gmail.com. Again, that is occultcattv@gmail.com. As well as I have an Instagram, occultcattv. Feel free to DM me on Instagram. So with that, you guys, that's going to be the video. Again, my name is O'Shea. As well, you can call me Atanu, for that is my magical name. And this is Occult Cat TV, the channel you know you love. So with that, you guys, have a beautiful day. Peace, and as well, namaste. From I myself, as well as the deities, from us here at the temple to you. Have a beautiful day, you guys. Peace.